Good day, everyone! In this video, we are going to discuss the third and last part of the Grade 10 MAPEH lesson under Arts for the first quarter. This lesson will be focused on the different types of modern art, particularly the abstract expressionism art movement and the different contemporary art forms. If you are ready to listen, let's start with our lesson. World events in the mid-20th century immensely influenced the course of human life, and with it, the course of art history. World War I in the year 1913 up to 1914, and World War II in the year 1941 up to 1945 in particular, shifted the political, economic, and cultural world stage away from Europe and onto the new world continent, America. Let's talk about abstract expressionism, pop art, and op art. The New York School. In the 1920s and 1930s, aspiring young American painters, sculptors, and writers sailed to Europe to expand their horizons. But during the dark days of World War II, a reverse migration brought European scientists, architects, and artists to American shores. New York in particular became a haven for the newly arrived artists and their American counterparts. The result was the establishment of what came to be known as the New York School as opposed to the School of Paris, that had been very influential in Europe. The daring young artists in this movement succeeded in creating their own synthesis of Europe's Cubist and Surrealist style. Their style came to be known as abstract expressionism. One form of abstract expressionism was seen in the works of Jackson Pollock. These were created through what came to be known as action painting. Pollock worked on huge canvases spread on the floor, splattering, squirting, and dribbling paint with seemingly no pre-planned pattern or design in mind. The total effort is one of vitality, creativity, energy made visible. Pollock's first one-man show in New York in 1943 focused worldwide attention on abstract expressionism for the first time. Here is a picture showing how Pollock does his action painting. Here is an example of Pollock's artwork entitled Autumn Rhythm. He made it way back in 1950 and it is an oil-on-canvas painting. In contrast to the vigorous gestures of the action painters, another group of artists who came to be known as color-filled painters used different color saturations such as purity, vividness, intensity to create their desired effects. Some of their works were huge fields of vibrant color, as in the paintings of Mark Rothko and Barnett Newman. Others took the more intimate pictograph approach, filling the canvas with repeating picture fragments or symbols, as in the works of Adolf Gottlieb and Lee Krasner. Here's an example of a colored field painting by Mark Rothko, an oil-on-canvas artwork which he did way back 1949 entitled Magenta, Black, Green on Orange. Another color-filled painting example is the work of Barnett Newman entitled Vir Heroicus Sublimis. He did it way back 1950 to 1951, and this is an oil-on-canvas painting. Another artwork is from Adolf Gottlieb, an oil-on-canvas painting he did in 1946 entitled Forgotten Dream. Last example is a work by Lee Krasner, an oil-on-canvas painting he did in 1948 entitled Abstract Number 2. By the early 1960s, the momentum of the New York School slowed down. In its place, a new crop of artists came on the scene using lighter treatment and flashes of humor, even irreverence, in their artworks. The movements they brought about have come to be called Neo-Dadaism and pop art, conceptual art, op art, and the new realism. Like the Dadaist movement that arose after World War I, the Neo-Dadaism of the 1960s wanted to make reforms in traditional values. It also made use of commonplace, trivial, even nonsensical objects. But unlike the angry, serious tone of the original Dadaists, the Neo-Dadaists seemed to enjoy nonsense for its own sake and simply wanted to laugh at the world. Their works range from paintings to posters to collages to three-dimensional assemblages and installations. This made use of easily recognizable objects and images from the emerging consumer society, as in the prints of Andy Warhol. Their inspirations were the celebrities, advertisements, billboards, and comic strips that were becoming commonplace at that time. Hence, the term pop from the word popular art emerged. Let's talk about who Andy Warhol is. He lived from 1928 up to 1987. Andy Warhol was a successful magazine and ad illustrator who became a leading artist of the 1960s pop art movements. He ventured into a wide variety of art forms including performance art, filmmaking, video installations, and writing, and controversially blurred the lines between fine art and mainstream aesthetics. Warhol died in February 22, 1987 in New York City. Here is an example of Andy Warhol's artworks. First one is called 12 Cars, an art print which he did way back in 1962. And here is one of the most famous Andy Warhol's artworks called Marilyn Monroe, a silkscreen painting he did way back 1967. Another famous artist in this art style is Roy Lichtenstein. He lived from 1923 up to 1997. Roy Lichtenstein was an American pop artist. During the 1960s, along with Andy Warhol, Jasper Johns, and James Rosenkist, among others, he became a leading figure in this new art movement. Here are some examples of Lichtenstein's artworks. This one is called Wham! It is an acrylic and oil on canvas artwork he did way back in 1963. This one is called In the Car, which is an artwork he did way back in 1963. Now let's talk about conceptual art. As the term implies, conceptual art was that which arose in the mind of the artist, took concrete form for a time, and then disappeared, unless it was captured in photo or film documentation. Conceptualists questioned the idea of art as objects to be bought and sold. Instead, they brought their artistic ideas to life temporarily, using such unusual materials as grease, blocks of ice, food, even just plain dirt. A key difference between a conceptual artwork and a traditional painting or sculpture is that the conceptualist's work often requires little or no physical craftsmanship. Much of the artist's time and effort goes into the concept or idea behind the work, with the actual execution then being relatively quick and simple. An example is this conceptual art piece by Joseph Kosuth. This artwork is called 1 and 3 Chairs. In this work, Kosuth used an actual chair in the center with a photograph of the same chair and an enlarged copy of a dictionary definition of a chair. Kosuth made this way back in 1965. Another kind of art is called op art. This emerged in the 1960s. It is called optical or op art in short. This was yet another experiment in visual experience, a form of action painting, with the action taking place in the viewer's eye. In op art, lines, spaces, and colors were precisely planned and positioned to give the illusion of movement. As the eye moved over different segments of the image, perfectly stable components appeared to shift back and forth, sometimes faster, sometimes slower as the brain responded to the optical data. Viewers experienced sensations varying from discomfort to disorientation to giddiness. One example of an optical art is made by Bridget Riley way back 1964. This is called Current. She used synthetic polymer paint on composition board. This time, let's talk about the different contemporary art forms in the form of installation art and performance art. The 20th century also saw the rise of new art forms aside from the traditional ones of painting and sculpture. Among these were installation art and performance art. Installation art makes use of space and materials in truly innovative ways, while performance art makes use of the human body, facial expressions, gestures, and sounds. Both speak powerfully about contemporary issues. Installation art is a contemporary art form that uses sculptural materials and other media to modify the way the viewer experiences a particular space. Usually life-size or sometimes even larger, installation art is not necessarily confined to gallery spaces. It can be constructed or positioned in everyday public or private spaces, both indoor and outdoor. Here are some examples of installation art. The first one is made by Roberto Villanueva, bamboo and runo grass outdoor installation at the Cultural Center of the Philippines that he did way back 1989. This is called Cordillera Labyrinth. Another example is a mixed media installation made by Santiago Bose way back 1989 entitled Pasyon at Revolusyon. Next example is also a mixed media installation made by Sid Gomez Hildawa way back 1990 entitled Go to Room 117. Last installation art example is an outdoor installation made by Edgar Talusan Fernandez in the year 1991 entitled Four Masks. Materials used in today's installation art range from everyday items and natural materials to new media such as video, sound, performance, and computers. It may be said that primitive forms of this art have existed since prehistoric times. However, this genre was not regarded as a distinct category until the mid-20th century and only came to prominence in the 1970s. The installation artist's manipulation of space and materials has also been called environmental art, project art, and temporary art. Essentially, installation art creates an entire sensory experience for the viewer. Many installations are of a size and structure that the viewer can actually walk through them and experience varying facets of the work in stages. Some works allow the viewer to touch or feel, hear, and smell elements that the artist has incorporated in the installation. Thus, there is a strong parallel between installation art and theater. Both play to an audience that is expected to interact with and be affected by the sensory experience that surrounds them. Aside from installation art, we also have performance art. It is a form of modern art in which the action of an individual or a group at a particular place and in a particular time constitute the work. It can happen anywhere, at any time, or for any length of time. It can be any situation that involves four basic elements: time, space, the performer's body, a relationship between performer and audience. Here is an example of picture where performance art is made. In performance art, the performer himself or herself is the artist. Performance art does include such activities as theater, dance, music, mime, juggling, and gymnastics. However, the term is usually reserved for more unexpected avant-garde and unorthodox activities intended to capture the audience's attention. The performer himself or herself is the artist, rather than an actor playing a character as in a stage play. The performance venue may range from an art gallery or museum to a theater, cafe, bar, or street corner. The performance itself rarely follows a traditional storyline or plot. It may be a series of intimate gestures, a grand theatrical act, or the performer remaining totally still. It may last for just a few minutes or extend for several hours. It may be based on a written script or spontaneously improvised as the performance unfolds. And that's the end of the third and last part of this topic under first quarter lesson in arts. I hope you learned a lot about all the different types of modern art. Please watch the other parts of this whole lesson uploaded in my channel. Thank you for watching and see you in our next lesson. Bye!